We're switching gears now. A recent study found nearly 3 billion birds, billion with a B, were lost in the U.S. and Canada. And these are common bird types like sparrows and finches. Well, Spectrum News 13's Curtis McLeod chatted with a biology professor about what could be done to stop the decline. Here's more for today's In-Depth.
All right, joining me today is Rollins College Associate Professor of Biology, Bobby Fokidis. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right, and we're going to get right started with everything right now. And want to start first off with this most recent study. Let's get right to it. Talk to me a little bit about it. We're talking a little bit about the bird population.
Yeah, so basically scientists from the U.S. and Canada took advantage of long-term data sets that are available and collected by both researchers and citizen scientists, bird watchers. And basically these surveys are looking at population trends over the period from 1970 to now. And what they found is startling declines in a number of different species. In fact, the majority of species that they looked at, which amounts to about a 30% reduction in total bird numbers from 1970, which amounts to about 3 billion birds being lost between now and then. And what's startling about it is not so much that it's just rarer species that you kind of expected, but also common species that we thought were successful in doing well.
That's pretty interesting there, especially when you talk about the, birds and the common, you commonly see them everywhere. You wouldn't even necessarily think that there's a decline like this. And I know it's a little startling to think about the bird populations have dropped by 29% since 1970. We're talking about 2.9 billion birds lost in almost 50 years. Is there a specific bird we're seeing the biggest impact?
Well, it's part of the thing about the study is that you're not finding a specific species impacted, but instead you're seeing large groups of birds. So the most heavily hit birds are actually migratory songbirds. So these are birds that may winter in the neotropics in South America, Central America, the Caribbean, and then moving their way up into more northerly areas to breed. And these groups have shown the most significant decline, particularly here in the east and particularly here in Florida. And this partly comes from the fact that they used radar station data, basically looking at migratory flocks moving through nighttime, and they're able to pick them up with Doppler radar, and they've noticed a decline, especially in these eastern flyways, like the Atlantic flyway where Florida sits. And as far as Florida goes, I mean, the reviews are a little bit mixed because some species are doing well in Florida. So, for example, a lot of our iconic wetland species, things like herons, egrets, ibises, and hingas, those blackbirds that are often sunning their wings on the side of the road by ponds, they're doing well. But smaller songbirds and also birds that use beaches are some of the species that have seen the biggest decline.
Well, what can be done to kind of stop or reduce this decline, this rapid decline?
Well, there's a lot of things that people can do. The first and foremost is habitat's probably behind a big chunk of this decline. So providing habitat is one thing that people can do. So on your property, encourage native vegetation when you can. If you have a large property and you have dead trees, I know it's tempting to cut them down, but actually those dead trees provide habitat for birds. So, consider keeping them around. Try to avoid the use of inorganic pesticides, chemicals, and fertilizers. Instead, choose more organic option or biological controls. And that's one thing that can be done. Another thing is to mind your cats. Cats outside claim millions of birds every year. So keeping them indoors, they're cute and cuddly, but outside of the house, they're a cunning predator that are known to take birds worldwide. And then finally, the main thing you can do is also be an advocate for birds. Learn the names of the birds around you. There's birds. Florida especially has a wonderful bird diversity. So if you learn about them, actually partake in some of the surveys that are available that actually were part of this study, you can use that. You can become fascinated with birds and become an advocate for birds and help support legislation that favors conservation of birds and their protection.
All right. Bobby Fokidis, Associate Professor of Biology at Rollins College. Thank you so much for going in depth with us. We appreciate you being here with us. Thank you.